What's up, guys? So today's going to be another different video. If you remember last week, I showed you guys that I got a Sega 32X and a Sega CD. I finally got those added to my collection and I'm super pumped about it. However, what I did not fully understand going into it was just how much setup goes into making those three systems work together. So I thought it would be a good idea today to do a video on how to properly set up your Sega CD and 32X to work with your Sega Genesis. So let's do that right now. I should note that this is specifically for a Model 2 Genesis attaching to a Model 2 Sega CD. I do not have a Model 1 of either version. The general setup is pretty much the same. There are just some slight quirks that make them different. Now you might be thinking this doesn't look all that complicated, but both of these came with a bunch of metal plates that you need to attach in order to make sure these function properly. These are all shields that protect the Genesis, the Sega CD, and the 32X from electrical interference, and it really keeps them from interfering with each other, so that way they can actually work properly. The first thing we have to do, though, is stuff to the Genesis. So let's get the CD and the 32X out of the way so we can get started. Once you're ready to get going, just go ahead and flip your Genesis over, and you'll need to open this little door right here. It's a little cover. This little plastic cover, you can go on and put that away. You'll see that it opens up this cartridge pin-ish thing. This is actually going to plug into the Sega CD, but first we need to add 3 of those metal plates I was showing you earlier. You're looking for this one, this one, and this one. This piece here is probably the easiest one of them all to install. Turn your Genesis to where the cartridge slot is away from you. You're going to take this piece here and turn it to where these little metal tabs at the bottom are facing the Genesis and going away from you as well. And you're actually going to drop them into the first vent hole on either side here. Oop, there it is. I'm going to drop it in, press it down. There's not going to be a click. It's just gonna go into push it in until it stops. Next, we're gonna take this piece here, and that actually goes almost into the cartridge slot here. You see how it's got this little bend right here? That actually wraps around this black piece of plastic here, and then the little teeth on it will go into the slot where the cover locked into place. So that will look something akin to that. Much like everything, you want to make sure these are well seated before moving on. And the last step is this one right here. So you see how it has bends going on in different directions on different sides. It has 2 pieces on this side, 1, 2, and it has 4 on this side, 2, 4. The side that has the 2 is what's going to actually go into the Genesis. You see how the Genesis has these little slits right here? These will go in and lock into that. Slide it around until those fall into place, and then pull it back towards you to lock those teeth into the Genesis. As you can see, that lines up the screw hole here, and you can put the screw in and tighten it down so that way this piece does not come off. Those 4 pieces on the bottom here, they're going to lock into these 4 slots in the Sega CD, and it's going to push this cartridge-ish looking thing into this cartridge slot here on the CD. There we go. And if all you have is the Sega CD, that's actually all you have to do, because all you have to do is power the CD separately, and then all the AV outs go from the Genesis like normal. But if you have the 32X, we need to put these on. And these can be a little tricky. So if you look around online, it says that these aren't really necessary, and I actually disagree. When I first got it, I was having some trouble getting my 32X to actually boot up games. It occasionally would, but it just didn't want to. I jiggled around the power adapters and it would start doing it, and you shouldn't have to do that. Whenever I put these in place, it stopped doing that. It had stopped having any problems. It boots up every time so long as the game's good. So I'm actually going to adjust the camera angle, because this angle's not going to do the best at showing what all is going on. to get one of these to latch in place. So there are two clips here. One is a little bit longer than the other one. The longer one goes towards the back of the Genesis. So what these actually do is these make the cartridge slot just ever so smaller, and these will actually lock in place and hold the doors of the cartridge slot open. Actually hold these open. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take and you're gonna feed it down to where these clips here are underneath the cartridge, the door of the cartridge slot. Okay, so you see how I got it there to where the cartridge slot's kind of trying to close around that clip? That's what you want. You're gonna angle it back towards the direction it's gonna go, and you can just push it into place. These little nibs here will lock under the body of the Genesis and hold the door open. So let's see if I can do it with just one hand. Right like that. And as you can see, the actual cartridge slot is completely open. There's nothing in the way of it, but the door, that one door, is held open. And now we're gonna do the exact same thing to the front flap with the smaller clip. It's a little fiddly, but if you just keep working with it, you'll get it there. Pops in place like the other one does. And now the cartridge slot is held open. And with that, the 32X just drops in place like a regular cartridge. And so there is our actual console build, but what about all the cables? Because this thing has a lot of cables that we gotta worry about. So now that you see all these ports on the back here, you're probably thinking the exact same thing I did. How the hell does this thing actually hook up? Well, one of the main things you need is a patch cable here. What this does is it takes the signal out of the Genesis and sends it into the 32X for the additional processing it provides, and then it goes out from the 32X to the TV. As you can see, they have a little notch in them. They can only be plugged in one direction. That notch should go up. And you'll plug this patch cable into the Genesis, and then the other end of the patch cable into the AV in, that's the middle one here, of the 32X. And then you'll take your AV or your RF cable and plug it into the 32X so it can go out to the TV. And then if you're curious about the utter nonsense that I was, this requires not one, not two, but 3 power supplies. The Sega CD needs a power supply, the Genesis needs a power supply, and the 32X needs a power supply. Amazon does sell a power brick that powers all 3 of them from one plug, and I am working on getting that. I just need to actually save up a little more money and order that for myself. Plug power to the Genesis, we plug power to the CD, and we plug power to the 32X. But if you take the time to properly get this thing set up and have the outlet resources necessary, you have yourself one of the most ridiculous consoles of the 1990s. So yeah, hope this video is helpful to somebody. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I look forward to bringing you even more informative videos as we go on in the future. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Have a good one, y'all.